Hello and welcome to another episode of Glory of Golden State Gaming. I'm your host Swamp Swimmer, and with me as always, the John Lennon to my Yoko Ono, Vespacian.
Wow. Okay. Hi everybody. There's a lot to unpack on that one.
I think those are my
doing,
favorite ones you have to really think about. Like, what did he mean by that?
Yeah.
But so, on a previous Bat Rep, we talked about Dune coming out on HBO Max and in theaters. Have you had a chance to view the movie yet?
I have, yes.
I watched it also. What'd you think?
I loved it.
You loved it. Every minute.
The only thing I didn't like about it was part one.
Yeah.
That I have to wait for. Have they greenlit it yet? Part two?
Yeah,
It
got greenlit like the week after it was released on HBO Max because it did well enough.
Yeah, no, it was really good. I'm tempted to go see it in IMAX because I watched it, after the kids were asleep, which meant I had it on like volume one, which is not how it's meant to be enjoyed. So
you got to get some like Bluetooth headphones and like big noise canceling ones. But I guess you have to listen for the kids too. So never mind.
True. But no, it was good, really good. Liked it a lot.
Okay, I'm gonna throw out there possibly an unpopular opinion. I did not love it.
Okay, fair enough.
Which is surprising because Denis Villeneuve, I loved Blade Runner 2040, whatever it was, the Blade Runner sequel. I loved it. So it wasn't like the slow pacing of the movie, but it was like, I feel like there wasn't the story got stretched. There wasn't a whole lot going on. I felt like the him cutting to the mystical mirage of the lady in the desert happened way too many times. But I don't know. I don't have that sentimental value for Dune. I never read the book, so I don't know. I'm probably gonna get some comments of people hating me, but whatever.
So I've read the book multiple times. I think I would say it's my favorite book. And it's a tough. The movie adaptation of that book is really, really tough because an enormous amount of that book takes place as internal monologue. Yeah. Right. So I think he did a fairly, like all those cutscenes, for example, like that. I mean, in a way that happens right in the book, right? So. It's tough. One thing that I didn't love about it, and it comes back to that part one versus part two, like Peter Jackson was a genius about creating the kind of like the moment at the end of the movie, even if it was kind of an artificial cut point, right? Like in The Hobbit and stuff like that. Like The Hobbit was not great for a lot of reasons, but like he made it feel like a movie, right? This felt like half a movie to me.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with that. Yeah,
2.5 hour long half a movie is tough. That's, like I said, that's the thing I don't like about it, is that it just like. But that being said, even if you cut back, I mean, it's still probably a 4-hour combined film, right? Which you can't release really. So he's got a devil's choice there. I mean, I don't
know. Zack Snyder did it on HBO Max, I guess. I don't know.
Right, but remember that they released a different version before that, right?
And it was horrible, and the one they released on HBO Max was better. I don't know. This conversation is going on too long. But,
anyways, no worries. Yes, to the Bat Rep.
But if you're watching this, first of all, please subscribe to our channel. We're still trying to push for more subscribers. But whatever you feel about Dune, throw it in the comments. We want to hear it. But let's get to the battle report. So last we left off, we did my round 4, where I played Skaven and AZ, and I shellacked him. But we're on to your round 4, and you get paired into Steve, who's an East Bay guy. He is a fantastic painter. I was just looking through the photos before this. Those photos do not do justice to his models. He's a great painter. But you get paired into him. He's playing ONG. Let's look at the lists. If you're interested in Aaron's list, please go back to the round 1 video. But Steve, do you want to go over the list, or you want me to?
Sure, I can. So he's got Shaman, General, Common Orc, Wizard Master, Shamanism, Destiny's Call, scroll, Rod of Battle. He's got a killer Feral Orc, Warlord, Essence of Mithril, and Omen of the Apocalypse, Potion of Swiftness. So that guy is tough. I'm not sure the AD wants to fight him. And then he's got a BSB Stalker Standard Iron Orc, and then a Scroll Caddy, which you don't really see anymore, and maybe backup Chaff, and then 30 Head Bashers Common with paired weapons, and then 2x20 with paired weapons, 20 with bows, 35 Iron Orcs.
Yeah. This is the big Iron Orc block. Yeah, 3x10 Nasher Herds, 2 Nasher Wrecking Teams, and 2 units of 5 Common Goblin Raiders. So it's, he really has teched this thing up to be all about that Iron Orc unit, right? He's got Stalker Standard on them so that they can be Strider, they're stubborn, they've got the, Apocalypse guy. That unit is basically untouchable from my perspective. And then the whole rest of the list is Orc MSMMU sort of. Just so many units, right? And the thing that was Steve's disadvantage here is that this is flags, right? So that's the downside of taking a list like this, right? So when I walked up to this, I saw those 3 units of Common Orcs out of core, and I was like, I should be able to pick up the objective. Hard to get a big points win off of this because something like 2,500 points of this list is in that Orc unit, right? Yeah. So anyways, obviously Shamanism is not a great lore for me. But yeah, overall, what do you think? Are Nasher Herds scoring?
No.
They're not. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is target saturation for you. This is because you're really good at blowing up a few targets, but this is a lot of targets.
Yeah.
So his Orc Warlord on a Feral Orc. Oh, he's on foot, so he's gonna be in that unit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a bad matchup, but it's not a good matchup either for you. Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I think getting a 20 off this list is basically impossible for me, right? But I think medium to medium plus win, given the scenario, is doable. Now, if this is hold the ground, I mean, I think it's a best case like a 10 at most, right? But capture the flags is probably one of the few that goes in my favor.
Gotcha. So this first image is saying end of top of 1.
Yeah, and so I got to apologize for that. After the time issues with day 1, I was really focused on kind of getting things moving here, and I wanted to be able to play all 6 turns. So I don't exactly remember the deployment process. Maybe it was marching columns, but long story short, I ended up dropping everything to go first.
No. Yeah, go ahead. You dropped everything to go first?
I ended up dropping everything to go first, and what you're not seeing here, you can kind of see them behind that big palace there. He did have the 2 Nasher Wrecking Teams over on the left-hand side initially, and I blasted them off turn 1. So a little spoiler. But,
okay.
They were there, and so basically, let me kind of give you that palace in the middle. It plays a huge role in this game, and really, I was fortunate to have that so centrally placed because it gives me, I think, a lot of things to work with to kind of keep that Iron Orc block away from me. Mm-hmm. So you can see what I did was I dropped kind of the bulk of my points to the left, right, over there, basically. I figured he couldn't fit his whole army on that side, and if he wanted to try to put some of it there, I'd blast it off as I did. And then I sort of played a bit of a refuse flank where there's essentially nothing over on the right-hand side of my line, right? So left to right, you got Spears, Sloop, Sea Guard with the Div Mage in it, I believe, at this point. The AD, the Queen's Guard, the 2 bolt throwers with a nice open field there in front of them, and then the Lions and the Reavers on the right. And then he had the Nasher Wrecking Teams. They were kind of like in front of that obelisk on the left. And then you've got the big Iron Orc unit raider unit, and I want to say the other raider unit is kind of behind the palace. I can't remember. The big Ed Basher unit, the 3 units of Nashers, one out right after the other, and then the 3 units of the core 20 man orcs. And yeah, that was about it. So kind of was just trying to go for that refuse flank, pressure him away from the left-hand side, try to preserve my big points, and figure out how to pick off the light scoring units with my range damage was essentially the idea. So
I feel like this is a good setup for him because he's got those 3 scoring units you wanted to kill are way far away from you.
Well, he counter dropped me, right? But
yeah.
you know, the thing is that his leadership and BSB are over in the
over
Iron
here. Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was kind of going for the idea that I could panic some of them off, maybe catch a good break there, and work the dragon around the flank and come at him from behind. Essentially, was my thinking there. So we'll see how it works out.
All right. Next photo here is marked top of 2 movement.
Okay, so you can see what he did, and basically he full court pressed, right? And so now going back to your point, I think pushing those kind of weaker scoring units forward was a mistake, right? I think he should have just kept them back. He has plenty of pressure between the Iron Orcs, the 3 Nasher units, and the Ed Bashers to kind of head towards my lines. So I think he should have just kept them out. But he goes fully forward. He's doing, I think, just sort of like a little bit of an interesting chaffing maneuver, keeping his charging lanes open with those 2 raider units. So he's trying not to chaff himself, I guess. I thought it was kind of interesting. And yeah, so let me do like kind of a quick thought on my turn. So you can see I'm continuing to do what I said I would do. I'm turning my line around that house, right?
Yeah.
Making it harder for him, pulling back on the right, so kind of, you know, avoiding his advance, but keeping everything within relevant range. And he did something funny. So he didn't take Chilling Howl, which against my list I think was a mistake. Yeah. But he did take Savage Fury, and he every turn he cast Savage Fury on my dragon, trying to pull me into a charge. Fortunately, you know, minimize discipline. 10 is pretty
yeah, you got a pretty good odds. Yeah,
it didn't happen. And this turn my opponent failed a I can't remember exactly what I used my dice on, maybe Break the Spirit on the dragon or something like that, but he failed a totem in this turn, you know, which could have been big, but he failed it. So anyway, so you can see I kind of started picking on the Nashers in my turn 1, 2. I got some of them down. So
yeah, you see picking them some up here.
Yeah, we can keep going.
All right, this is marked bottom of 2 movement.
Right, so this is his reaction to me, and you can see I've been able to do a ton of work. So I basically, oh, you know what, I might have mismarked this. Actually, I think is end of 2. Sorry, my apologies. So you can see I was able to do a ton of work on the Nasher units. So they're basically gone. He did make a charge with one of the Nasher units into that lion block, and I did very, very well and basically wiped him out before they could, no, I think they swing Simo, but he just did really poorly and only killed like 3, and I wiped him. So that was, you know, pretty good for me. Otherwise, he kind of continues the move with the Iron Orcs, but basically doesn't push with the Ed Bashers, and is a little bit more tentative on the right, which I think, you know, kind of he should have committed, right? But but he didn't. So that brings me to, I think, what do I have my 3? Yeah, top of 3 movement next.
Let's see here. This is top of 3 movement.
Yeah, so a couple things here. So he gave me an opportunity to walk the Queen's Guard out of the arc of the Iron Orcs, right? So that could have been fixed with a kind of a slight rotation by him, but I think he was trying to keep the the dragon from staying behind the house, essentially. So he's kind of, I think, trying to do too much with that unit. I did make I want to call it like a 7 or an 8 charge into the common orcs on the right with the lions. And you can kind of start to see, this is a little bit of like what I had hoped or envisioned would happen, right? Which was that I would be able to bring the dragon around the house, threaten the back line, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, and the lions getting in over there was a bonus. And so basically with my positioning here, I should be able to pick up one of the flags, and then with my shooting, start working on the others, and I have basically no threat from the Iron Orcs right now, so it's kind of ideal positioning here. And so I think, is this the last one that I have?
We got one more here. This is marked bottom of 3 move.
Yeah, so basically what happened was the lions went through that first orc unit. You can kind of see the remainder of that unit behind.
Right,
it's like under his ruler. Yeah, I didn't catch him in the overrun, but I did make the overrun. It's a little hard to see, but his big head basher unit is facing my lions there.
Yeah, this one moved to face the lions.
Yeah, and he has turned his Iron Orcs around to basically zone most of the movement that the AD can make, right? So essentially he wants to prevent me from doing what I wanted to do, which is charging his orc blocks with the AD. But of course, at this point, he's now completely removed all the pressure that he had on my line, right? And I've already, I should be able to pick up a scoring unit, which means that, you know, at this point, if I run the lions away, I win objective up fairly decently on points because he basically hasn't gotten anything from me, right? So this is so he's in a tough spot at this point, and we ended up playing out turn 4 because this is the last picture. We ended up playing out turn 4, but what happened was I broke that orc unit. I overran, caught the, you know, hit the other orc unit and picked it up. And then so I was kind of positioned such that it was a little bit of a, you know, kind of like mid-range charge with his Ed Bashers into my lions, and I fled it, right? And with the dragon, you know, I have a minimized 10 to rally. The dragon I just kind of pulled out behind the hill, sort of out of range of the Iron Orcs, and threatening all the counter charges. And I put in just an absolute ton of work on that Ed Basher unit with my shooting. I you know, so basically, I think I killed like 12 or something like that in a turn, or 15. So I really heavily depleted that unit. So at the end of 4, he and I discussed it. We ended up calling it a 17-3 to me. Sorry for the spoiler. I know it's the next slide. Yeah. Sorry about that. We ended up calling. We worked out the math, and essentially, with the positioning of the lions and the fact that I'd picked up the scoring units, essentially what happened was he gave me half points for the head bashers. And we agreed that I would just play keep away at that point and try to, you know, get the points off the head bashers, and win the objective. So that's what we settled it on. So essentially, what in that bottom of 4, what he was looking for was, could the head bashers catch the lions, right? And essentially kind of like potentially even things up on the objective and make it a game, but they didn't. And so, you know, and then I rolled it, and the lions rallied, and with the positioning of the dragon and everything like that, basically it would have been a cagey game from there forward. So we decided to save the time and call it at 17-3. So
fair enough. Yeah, I definitely. You're right. He didn't push with the feral orcs here.
They're actually not ferals, interestingly. They're just common orcs, but they're head bashers, so they've got the extra hit strength. Yeah. And
do you think if you would have pushed with them and kept the 3 blocks back, and then he really has to zone your dragon from it jumping over the building like this. Like, what can he zone your dragon with?
Yeah, it's tough. Like I said, I think that building helps a lot, right? Because it kind of chunks him into one half of the board. He's relatively slow moving. You know, I think that one thing that he could have done is he could have, you know, for example, like he could have put something threatening, like that Ed Basher unit is. I certainly don't want to fight a Sea Guard, for example, right? Not the Iron Orc one, but the other one. Like if I'd put if he put that on the other side of the building, that creates a bigger problem for me, right? Like I can probably beat that block, but how long does it take? How many resources? What's left, right? So I think that's probably the way to win this game for him. Now the alternative would have been just to kind of like keep those two blocks, you know, sort of way in the back and use, you know, one of his blocks, you know, as a zone, and then maybe just push the Iron Orc block forward and trust that it can kill the world. You know, that, which it can, which is, but then there's I think some riskiness of like, you know, does he fail a panic check with his, you know, or something in that back corner, right? And that could blow the game up. So I think it's tough. I think I think the mission and the building, the size and positioning of the building made this one a little bit of a tough one for Steve. So yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree. Yeah. And he should have hid those the Nasher teams behind the building for the first turn, because they just got zapped, right?
Yeah, I mean that was kind of free money for me, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in this picture here, like, say if his head bashers had been sort of like, oh no, now that I think about it, the location of those two little Nasher teams actually is the biggest problem. Because my thinking was, if he kind of brought the head bashers up sort of into like on the edge of that forest to zone exactly what I did with the Lions and the Queen's Guard, right? That creates a bit of a problem. But I can't remember. I think that one Nasher in the forest rallied this turn. Like it was the one that ran from the Lions or something. No, they blow up. They don't run. No, I don't know. Maybe it would have been I think maybe that would have been better to kind of zone that section of the board so that the Lions and the Queen's Guard couldn't do what they did here.
Yeah, so basically maybe it wasn't a right move for him to castle on one side. It seemed like a good idea when looking at deployment, but if he would have kind of split up his forces equally on both sides of the building, that would have been much more of a problem for you.
Yeah, because you can like see where those spears are. Like imagine that Ed Basher unit there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, in turn one, essentially, like the bolt throwers wouldn't be able to see it. Then I'm instead of being able to target the Nashers and kind of wipe them off the board and prevent the threat on that right side, I'd be turning the Queen's Guard and the Sea Guard over to hammer the Ed Bashers, right? So it kind of splits my attention. Whereas here, I basically was just able to, like, I don't even think the Sea Guard shot at anything just to save time, because I'm not shooting into Res 4 3+ Iron Horse is like, I'm not going to fight that unit, right?
Who cares? Yeah.
So, anyways, it's I think that would have been more of a potential to open up the game. As it was, he kind of gave me some openings, and I was able to capitalize on it with some luck and all that. So yeah.
All right. Well, Steve, thanks for the game. I'm actually considering having Steve paint my my beast turds, which I'm very close to pulling the trigger on.
So let me give you one piece of good feedback. That Sky Sloop right there, Steve both assembled it and painted it, which if anybody's ever tried to assemble one of those Sky Sloops,
it's a pain.
It's a total pain in the butt, and he did a phenomenal job on it, and it was on time, good price. I'd definitely recommend him for armies for sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking, but what I'm thinking about is I want to do like everything I have, so it's going to be real expensive, but I want to do it all at once. I don't want to like piece it out and have bits and pieces. And so anyway, Steve, if you're watching, Steve, get ready for that one. But everyone, thank you for watching. Please hit that subscribe button, and have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Steve.